On many ridges came strange sounds and sights. One path's wild blooms, their scent clung to one's body. A few poles of bamboo, what enduring green. The portal of grass. The wattle-fenced yard. A picture to paint or sketch. The stone slab bridge. The white earth walls. How charming indeed, and rare. Now in the wistful face of autumn. The air was cool and brisk. By the wayside yellow leaves fell. Over the peaks the white clouds drifted. In thinly grown woods the wild fowls twittered. And young dogs yelped outside the village gate. When Bochin reached the door of his house, he threw down the dead tiger and called, "Little ones, where are you?" Out came 3 or 4 houseboys, all looking rather unattractive and mean, who hauled the tiger inside. Bochin told them to skin it quickly and prepare it for the guest. He then turned around to welcome Tripitaka into his dwelling, and as they greeted each other, Tripitaka thanked him again for the great favor of saving his life. "We are fellow countrymen," said Bochin, "and there's little need for you to thank me." After they had sat down and drunk tea, an old woman with someone who appeared to be her daughter-in-law came out to greet Tripitaka. "This is my mother, and this my wife," said Bochin. "Pray ask your parent to take the honored seat," said Tripitaka. "And let your poor monk pay his respects. Father is a guest coming from great distance," said the old woman. "Please relax and don't stand on ceremony, mother," said Bochin. "He has been sent by the Tang Emperor to seek scriptures from Buddha in the Western Heaven. He met your son just now at the ridge. Since we are fellow countrymen, I invited him to the house to rest his horse. Tomorrow, I shall see him on his way." When she heard these words, the old woman was very pleased. "Good, good, good," she said. "The timing couldn't be better, even if we had planned to invite him. For tomorrow happens to be the anniversary of your late father's death. Let us invite the elder to perform some good deeds and recite an appropriate passage of scripture. We shall see him off day after tomorrow." Although he was a tiger slayer, a so-called guardian of the mountain, our Liu Bochin had a good deal of filial feeling for his mother. When he heard what she said, he immediately wanted to prepare the incense and the paper money, so that Tripitaka might be asked to stay. As they talked, the sky began to darken. The servants brought chairs and a table, and set out several dishes of well-cooked tiger meat, steaming hot. Bochin invited Tripitaka to begin, telling him that rice would follow. "Oh dear," said Tripitaka, his hands folded. "To tell you the truth, I have been a monk since leaving my mother's womb, and I have never eaten any meat." Hearing this, Bochin reflected a while. He then said, "Elder, for generations this humble family has never kept a vegetarian diet. We could, I suppose, find some bamboo shoots and wood ears and prepare some dried vegetables and bean cakes, but they would all be cooked with the fat of deer or tigers. Even our pots and pans are grease-soaked. What am I to do? I must ask the elder's pardon." "Don't fret," said Tripitaka. "Enjoy the food yourself. Even if I were not to eat for 3 or 4 days, I could bear the hunger. But I dare not break the dietary commandment. Suppose you starve to death," said Bochin. "What then? I am indebted to the heavenly kindness of the guardian," said Tripitaka, "for saving me from the packs of tigers and wolves. Starving to death is better than being food for a tiger." When Bochin's mother heard this, she cried, "Son, stop such idle talk with the elder. Let me prepare a vegetarian dish to serve him." "Where would you get such a dish?" said Bochin. "Never mind. I'll fix it," said his mother. She asked her daughter-in-law to take down a small cooking pan and heat it until much of the grease had burned off. They washed and scrubbed the pan again and again, and then put it back on the stove and boiled some water in it. Taking some elm leaves from the mountain, they made soup with it, after which they cooked some rice with yellow millet mixed with Indian corn. They also prepared 2 bowls of dried vegetables and brought it all out to the table. "Elder," the aged mother said to Tripitaka, "please have some. This is the cleanest and purest food that my daughter-in-law and I have ever prepared." Tripitaka left his seat to thank her before sitting down again. Bochin removed himself to another place. Dishes and bowls full of unsauced and unsalted tiger meat, musk deer meat, serpent meat, fox flesh, rabbit, and strips of cured venison were set before him. To keep Tripitaka company, he sat down and was about to pick up his chopsticks when he saw Tripitaka fold his hands and begin to recite something. Startled, Bochin dared not touch his chopsticks. He jumped up instead and stood to one side. Having uttered no more than a few phrases, Tripitaka said to him, "Please eat. You are a priest who likes to recite short scriptures." Said Bochin, "That was not scripture," said Tripitaka. "Only a prayer to be said before meals. You people who leave your families," said Bochin, "are particular about everything. Even for a meal you have to mumble something." They ate their dinner and the dishes and bowls were taken away. Evening was setting in when Bochin led Tripitaka out of the main hall to go for a walk at the back of the dwelling. They passed through a corridor and arrived at a straw shed. Pushing open the door, they walked inside, where they found several heavy bows and some quivers of arrows hanging on the walls. 2 pieces of tiger skin, stinking and blood-stained, were draped over the cross beams, and a number of spears, knives, tridents, and rods were stuck into the ground at one corner. There were 2 seats in the middle of the shed, and Bochin invited Tripitaka to sit for a moment. Seeing that the place was so gruesome and putrid, Tripitaka dared not linger. They soon left the shed and walked further back to a huge garden, where there seemed to be no end of thick clumps of chrysanthemum piling their gold and stands of maple hoisting their crimson. With a loud rustle, more than a dozen fat deer and a large herd of musk deer jumped out. Calm and mild-mannered, they were not at all frightened at the sight of human beings. Tripitaka said, "You must have tamed these animals, like the people in your city of Chang'an," said Bochin, "where the affluent store up wealth and treasures and the landlords gather rice and grain, so we hunters must keep some of these wild beasts to prepare against dark days. That's all." As they walked and conversed, it grew dark, and they returned to the house to rest. As soon as the members of the family, young and old, arose next morning, they went to prepare vegetarian food to serve to the priest, who was then asked to begin his recitations. Having first washed his hands, the priest went to the ancestral hall with the guardian to burn incense. Only after he had bowed to the house shrine did Tripitaka beat on his wooden fish and recite first the true sentences for the purification of the mouth, and then the divine formula for the purification of mind and body. He went on to the sutra for the salvation of the dead, after which Bochin requested him to compose in writing a specific prayer for the deliverance of the deceased. He then took up the Diamond Sutra and the Guanyin Sutra, each of which was given a loud and clear recitation. After lunch, he recited several sections from the Lotus Sutra and the Amitaya Sutra, before finishing with the Peacock Sutra and a brief recounting of the story of Buddha healing a bhikkhu. Soon it was evening again. All kinds of incense were burned together with the various paper horses, images of the deities, and the prayer for the deliverance of the deceased. The Buddhist service was thus completed, and each person retired. We shall now tell you about the soul of Bochin's father, verily a ghost redeemed from perdition, who came to his own house and appeared to all the members of his family in a dream. "It was difficult," he said, "for me to escape my bitter ordeals in the region of darkness, and for a long time I could not attain salvation. Fortunately, the holy monk's recitations have now expiated my sins. King Yoma has ordered someone to send me to the rich land of China, where I may assume my next incarnation in a noble family. All of you, therefore, must take care to thank the elder, and see that you are not negligent in any way. Now I leave you. So it is that there is, in all things, a solemn purpose: to save the dead from perdition and pain." When the whole family awoke from the dream, the sun was already rising in the east. The wife of Boqing said, "Guardian, I dreamed last night that father came to the house. He said that it was difficult for him to escape his bitter ordeals in the region of darkness, and that for a long time he could not attain salvation. Fortunately, the holy monk's recitations have now expiated his sins, and King Yama has ordered someone to send him to the rich land of China, where he may assume his next incarnation in a noble family. He told us to take care to thank the elder and not be negligent in any way." After he had finished speaking, he drifted away, despite my plea for him to stay. I woke up, and it was all a dream. "I had a dream also," said Boqing. "One exactly like yours. Let's get up and talk to mother about this." The two of them were about to do so when they heard the old mother calling, "Boqing, come here. I want to talk to you." They went in and found the mother sitting up in bed. "Son," she said, "I had a happy dream last night. I dreamed that your father came to the house saying that, thanks to the redemptive work of the elder, his sins had been expiated. He is on his way to the rich land of China, where he will assume his next incarnation in a noble family." Husband and wife laughed uproariously. Boqing said, "Your daughter-in-law and I both had this dream, and we were just coming to tell you. Little did we expect that mother's call also had to do with this dream." They therefore called on every member of the family to express their gratitude and prepare the monk's horse for travel. They came bowing before the priest and said, "We thank the elder for providing life and deliverance for our deceased father, for which we can never repay you sufficiently." "What has this poor monk accomplished?" said Tripitaka. "That merits such gratitude." Boqing gave a thorough account of the dream that the three of them had, and Tripitaka was also very pleased. A vegetarian meal was again served, and a tael of silver was presented as a token of their gratitude. Tripitaka refused to accept so much as a penny, though the whole family begged him earnestly. He only said, "If, in compassion, you can escort me on the first part of my way, I shall ever be grateful for such kindness." Boqing and his mother and wife had little alternative but hastily to prepare some biscuits from unrefined flour, which Tripitaka was glad to accept. Boqing was told to escort him as far as possible. Obeying his mother's bidding, the guardian also ordered several houseboys to join them, each bringing hunting equipment and weapons. They walked to the main road, and there seemed to be no end to the scenic splendor of the mountains and peaks. When they had traveled for half a day, they came upon a huge mountain so tall and rugged that it truly seemed to touch the blue sky. In a little while the whole company reached the foot of the mountain, and the guardian began to ascend it as if he were walking on level ground. Halfway up, Boqing turned around and stood still at the side of the road, saying, "Elder, please go on yourself. I must now take leave of you and turn back." When Tripitaka heard these words, he rolled down from his saddle and said, "I beg you to escort me a little further." "You do not realize, elder," said Boqing, "that this mountain is called the Mountain of Two Frontiers. The eastern half belongs to our great Tang domain, but the western half is the territory of the Tartars. The tigers and wolves over there are not my subjects, nor should I cross the border. You must proceed by yourself." Tripitaka became fearful. He stretched out his hands and clutched at the sleeves of the hunter, tears pouring from his eyes. It was at this tender moment of farewell that there came from beneath the mountain a thunderous voice crying, "My master has come! My master has come!" Tripitaka was dumbfounded and Boqing trembled. We do not know who was crying. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.